What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Fatboyz Dynasty Podcast, coming at you live on the Fantasy Holics Podcast Network YouTube channel. I'm Bo. That's Brant. Week 1 is in the books, Brant. Man, what a week. We had great football Thursday, great football Friday, a good day of football on Sunday, and then we even had a pretty tempting matchup on Monday night between the Steelers and the Niners. Man, what a week it was. Just wild from start to finish. We had guys perform that you expected to perform. Some other guys stepped up quick. Xavier Worthy, he started out strong with a couple of touchdowns on Thursday night. We thought we were going to be into a good treat. And then there was like, wait a minute, all these guys that were supposed to be fantasy studs just did nothing this week. I mean, for example, Brant, one of my leagues that I'm in, I have Sam Laporta as my tight end, and Sleeper sends out like the best players from the starting lineup each week from all the teams in your league. Sam Laporta was the tight end 1 of started tight ends in this league that I'm in. It's a 10-man league, and it's just like, how does he score 10 points? And that's the tight end 1. It was just a weird week this week, and I know you and I are going to touch base on some things about whether we need to panic, whether we're worried or not worried about it on today's episode.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a fun week. And a lot of it does have to do with, like you said, they have all that time to plan and scheme for that player and slow down that offense. We saw it from game 1. They schemed against Mark Andrews and they blanketed him, and then Isaiah Likely blew up. And then Friday night was Philly and Green Bay. They tried to apparently scheme against all the pass catchers and just got their butts kicked by Saquon Barkley, and plus injuries. So, yeah, I mean, you have everyone scheming, and you got to see what the new offenses look like. J-Mo put on a show in a league I'm tanking in this league, and I literally was the highest scorer this week. My starting wide receivers were Jameson Williams, Reed, and then I did have Cooper Kupp because I was waiting to sell him off during the season. And they blow up, and I end up being Ty Chandler was my RB2 started, and I was the highest scorer in that league. And I may have to go back. I may have accidentally started Bryce Young too. And still, like, it was just crazy the way it is. But it's week 1. It's fantasy football. It's always fun time. So let's get our bibs on.
Let's eat. All right, Brant, if you're okay with this, I think the best way to start this week out, just because there's so many moving pieces, let's start with some of our surprises from this weekend, things that really maybe we weren't expecting to happen the way they were, and we'll kind of move into our players that we want to exercise patience and maybe the guys that we are starting to panic a little bit on. If you want to start with one of your favorite surprises from this week.
One of my favorite surprises was Reed and the Green Bay Packers. He took off, he ran the ball, then he caught the long touchdown. It was good to see that they got him involved, and he was just how explosive he really was on that team this week. That will actually, we're going to see a little different from the Green Bay Packers. And then also staying with that game was a lot of people were so down on Josh Jacobs this year. And he comes out with 16 carries, 84 yards. He had 104 total yards. It was 0 touchdowns, but still was one of the best running backs on the week with 104 total yards. It was crazy how much they actually went out and used Josh Jacobs this year, especially when a lot of people were down on him.
Yeah, I'm going to start with well, first of all, let me say too that the Packers offense looked pretty darn good for week one, traveling over to Brazil, playing a pretty good defense in the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't think out of the players that you probably started in leagues, like if we're being honest with ourselves, if you own Packers players, maybe you're starting Christian Watson, maybe you're starting Reed, maybe you're starting Love, maybe you're starting Jacobs. You're happy with all those results.
Mm-hmm.
All four of those you're happy with. There's not an ounce of complaints you can make about those. So that was good to see. Now we're going to talk about that a little bit later on as the show moves on, but it was definitely interesting to see how that shook out. Now, my first surprise, Brant, is I was kind of shocked to see the Texans' big three wide receivers were able to coexist as well as they were. You talk about, and Dell did have the slowest day, but it was just because some of the targets didn't connect the way they lined up. He had the second most targets on the team with 7 targets. He just only caught 3 of them for 40 yards. He did add 2 rushes for 19 yards, though, which is something you kind of like to see as a Dell owner, because unfortunately, again, it is just week one, but Dell is the one who comes off the field when it's not a 3 wide receiver set. So if he's getting those rushes, that helps out with that too. Nico Collins, 6 for 8 for 117 yards. Stephon Diggs, 6 of 6, 33 yards, 2 touchdowns. I definitely was surprised to see that wide receiving core worked as well together as they did. And CJ Stroud was, especially week one, not just targeting one guy that he trusted so much. I think that's definitely a good, refreshing surprise to see moving forward for the rest of the year. And I in a league, I sat Stephon Diggs in week one, which I think I had the luxury to do. My wide receivers didn't pan out that way afterwards, but I did move him into the starting lineup this week after seeing what I saw last week, just because of the fact that CJ Stroud is spreading that ball around well. And while I'm on the subject too, Brant, I did want to give you some credit. I said Sunday morning, actually, you started this conversation Sunday morning. You said that you had high expectations for JSN this year. I said, until Tyler Lockett's not the number 2 wide receiver, I'm not going to believe Tyler Lockett's not the number 2 wide receiver. Tyler Lockett did lead the team in targets and receptions. However, similarly to Tank Dell, he was the man off the field in 2 wide receiver sets. It was JSN and DK Metcalf. So I do think as the season progresses, it probably does tend to lean towards JSN more than it does Tyler Lockett. So I'll give the man the respect he's got coming to him. You do know your Seattle Seahawks.
It shocked me because I'm going to talk about this a little bit later. It shocked me that we were so slow to start moving the ball in that game. And then JSN back-to-back receptions, he was the one that sparked it. And then you never saw another target. It was crazy. He was the one that sparked our offense. And in the second half, we did look a lot better. So it was just shocking that they didn't use him as much. But I guess when you're given Kenneth Walker 22, 23 touches in a game, it's good. So let's talk about that. That's another thing that surprised me. Let's talk about the running back touches. 33 total touches for Joe Mixon, 28 for Ramondre Stevenson, and then I think it was 23 for Kenneth Walker. Let's see, 22. It was 3 targets. He had 22 total touches. I mean, the bell count backs are back. And then you go and you look at Jordan Mason. He bell counted for the San Francisco 49ers. And then you talk about Saquon Barkley, which we knew was going to be the bell count. Josh Jacobs. The bell count running backs are starting to sneak back in the realm of guys that maybe you weren't looking at. Let's talk another, 21 touches for James Cook. And then I think your boy Bijan ended up 18 plus 5 was 23 total touches. So that
Brees Hall 21 as well.
So that bell cow is there. Now let's talk about the hugest surprise. One of the most explosive backs. You know my love for this guy, and it finally he looked healthy, which means he's probably going to die next week because that's his history. 10 carries and 135 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown for J.K. Dobbins. He looked phenomenal when given the opportunity. Is it Harbaugh knows how to actually use the Ohio State guy the way he was? Is it J.K. Dobbins' backfield? This is something to keep an eye on. This will lead us into what we're going to talk about, but this is something to keep an eye on. J.K. Dobbins, in my mind, you and me talked about it. I thought he was going to be the best back to own there, and he definitely showed it week one. I do know Gus Edwards did out touch him. But I believe JK did out snap him. But JK looked explosive. He looked like the back that we expected coming out of college this week.
Excuse me. And let's talk about that too for a minute, Brant, because there was a healthy discussion in our Fantasy Holics group chat about, yeah, but how impressive is this when it all come off 2 carries? When you're talking about J.K. Dobbins, that's very impressive because he was an explosive player in college. And the fact that we've missed all this time of J.K. Dobbins, and here he is coming in on a running back 4 performance in PPR leagues. That's a pretty darn good thing. And he was on the field for 58% of the snaps. So there's still room for him to get on the field a little bit more. He had 3 receptions as well. So he is, a guy that Justin Herbert can look to as well when a play breaks down potentially. Yeah, that one is one that I'd like to monitor. Now, I'll be the first one to tell you if this persists for another week or two, I'm shopping the hell out of J.K. Dobbins because I think it falls apart at some point, right? The injury history is probably too rich at this point for me to want to hold on to it. And I could be wrong about that, Brant, but at 25 years of age in a dynasty landscape, the injuries already exist. How many more years do we see of J.K. Dobbins anyway? Depending on what you get in return. Now, I'm not going to give him away. It is a running back, and if he's putting up, 20-point games, you're not giving that up for free. But if you get a decent little return, I think that's something you can move.
Absolutely. He should have been in your shorter bench ones. He should have probably been number 1 waiver claim this week. Bucky Irving's work there in Tampa Bay should have been a good claim this week. Mason should have been the number 1, especially with the CMC lingering injuries. So if for some reason your waivers didn't clear.
I'll tell you something else too that's surprising as hell to me, Brant, is and you brought up the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Baker Mayfield looked good this weekend. Looked like Oklahoma Baker Mayfield coming after that butt, like when he planted the flag at halftime, or pregame or whatever. That was what the Baker Mayfield we got this week. 24 of 30 passes completed, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns. I saw some highlights of that game while I was watching my Falcons game. And man, there were some balls that fell into laps. You couldn't have placed these balls better. And I'm just wondering, is it possible that we're seeing a late term Baker Mayfield breakout? Because that's certainly what it would appear to be. We had some good games with the Rams, when he came in off the bus and started for them on a Thursday night a couple of years ago. Looked good in Tampa last year, got them into the playoffs, and man, did he look great week 1, Brant.
Yeah, he definitely did. That offense looks good. Tampa Bay looks like they're just rolling just the way they left off last year. He should be another waiver claim in 2 QB leagues or in single QB leagues. He's definitely a streamer. Man, it was a tough week to watch from different standpoints from guys that you were fading.
Let me ask you this though, really quick, just because there's 3 names in the top 10 that won't be in the top 10 moving forward, and I want you to tell me out of these 3 names, Brant, which one has the most staying power to be I'll even go wide receiver 2 because I just don't think any of them exist that way. At number 10, you had Alec Pierce this week, 3 receptions, 125 yards, and a touchdown. Okay. There's the first one. Jamison Williams, 5 receptions, 121 yards, 9 touchdowns on 9 targets. Or excuse me, 1 touchdown on 9 targets, not 9. And then last but not least, Alan Lazard, 9 targets, 6 receptions, 89 yards, and 2 tutties. Which one of those has the best chance over the course of the season to stay in as a wide receiver 2?
So Lazard, J-Mon, who was the first one you said?
Alec Pierce.
I don't believe in Alec Pierce. That's why it flew right out. I don't believe in Alec Pierce. I think that was he got lucky on open balls. I think that's going to end up being Mitchell's role. I'm gonna actually say Alan Lazard. When the play broke down and it was crunch time, Aaron Rodgers looked for one of his most faithful targets. I'm not going to say this guy's going to go out and be, great, but that's who Rodgers looks for, and he still is, and he proved it. Late in the game, got the first down. Late in the game, got the touchdown. Allen Lazard is the guy that I'd be talking about.
I definitely agree. First of all, on the Colts thing, Adonai Mitchell didn't really get a whole lot going on this week, but he did have the best separation rate in all of the National Football League this week. So I do think that gets addressed moving forward, which will then move out Pierce down that pecking order a little bit. Allen Lazard's the one to me that, like you said, Brant, man, when things didn't go well, that's who Rodgers went with. We've talked about it on this show for a few years. It's a thing in the past for Aaron Rodgers. When he needs a bailout guy, he looks to somebody he trusts. Allen Lazard's been that guy. He brought him with him from Green Bay, for Pete's sake. So I definitely think that there's going to be something to that over the course of the season. And just like the Jameson Williams thing was great, but Sam Laporta and Amon-Ra St. Brown were miserable this week. That's not going to continue. You're not going to see 4 points for Amon-Ra St. Brown and 10 points for Sam Laporta very often. Those guys are going to be much better as the season progresses.
I would say I went back all the way to St. Brown's rookie year, and not counting his rookie year because he did have a few. He only had like 4 games total where he had 6 points or less. You're not going to see that. He demands too much. I think he still had 7 targets. I think it was just a rough outing for him and that Detroit Lions. So that's going to bring us, in my mind, unless you got some more surprises, that should bring us into our panic and patience. I'm going to start with the panic, and you and me talk pre-show. I'm not panicking too much on too many people. CMC would be the easy escape with that lingering Achilles injury, but I'm going to go with the Green Bay pass catchers. Jordan Love banged up. He's going to miss a couple weeks. I know they're keeping him off the IR. I still think he's going to miss at least 4 games. So you have Malik Willis starting. We've seen this before, and it's not pretty. He's a rushing quarterback, so he's going to look to take off. He doesn't push the ball very well down the field. I'm panicking on those guys now. I'm going to be cautious on starting them. I'm only going to start them if I really have to, or if the matchup is really good. It's going to be rough sledding over the next few weeks. Even when Jordan Love comes back, it all depends on how he handles himself coming off this injury as well. Because I believe it was a knee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So it's all going to be on how he can drive his foot and drive that ball down the field and everything else when he comes back too. So I think it's going to be a rough outing for those pass catchers the rest of the year. Excuse me.
Yeah. Okay. You won't get much flack from me on that one, Brand. I think that's something I can buy into as well. All right. Since you went panic first, I'll stick with you. I'll go panic. I'm panicking like you wouldn't know what, Brant, on the Atlanta Falcons pass catchers, namely Drake London. And yes, I know last year Drake London started out with no targets week 1 and then bounced back really strong week 2. Kirk Cousins looks like he's made of cement. He threw like 4 or 5 passes that should have been intercepted. I know 2 of them were picked off, but he's just throwing ducks. He's got no zip behind the ball. And I don't know, Brant, if this is he's not coming back from the injury the way folks thought he would, and maybe that makes more sense for the Penix pick, or if it was a scheme thing, because Kirk Cousins stood by it and said, no, I'm healthy. Not having play action passes when you have one of the best running backs in football in your backfield makes no sense to me. I definitely think that frees up and creates some space. I know Drake London's not necessarily the fastest guy ever. Kyle Pitts is extremely fast when you're playing them against linebackers, but when you continuously line him up outside against cornerbacks, he loses that element of fastness there. So I'm just nervous about this Atlanta Falcons offense. Brant, I know, and here's the other thing too. The next 2 weeks we have the Philadelphia Eagles this week on Monday Night Football. Next week is the Kansas City Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. I'm not going to cast judgment and say these guys have to be sat for the rest of the season until what I see week 4 and week 5, but I'm for sure not playing Drake London in leagues that I have decent alternatives, like I sat him in favor of Stephon Diggs this week. All right. In leagues where that's available to you, I think you have to do that because I just don't see it getting much better against two pretty good defenses again in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, this is something I actually was going to bring up. I know you and me haven't been at work together, so we haven't got to talk a whole lot. I brought this up to a good buddy of ours earlier today, and I didn't get to watch your game. I watched a lot of the Bears game, and that didn't look pretty at all. On the Bears side, thank God for the defense. 2 games won this week. I'm sorry, this may be a little knock on you, but 2 games won this week with no offensive touchdown. But from the highlights and a few things that I saw, it just looked like Kirk Cousins wasn't getting any drive off of his back foot. He wasn't moving up in the pocket. It just looked like he was stationary and like you said, just made of concrete and just not drilling that ball down there like he used to. It was the few plays that I got to watch and the few highlights I got to see. It just did not look like Kirk Cousins. And could we be possibly hearing the fan base? I'm not saying you, but could we possibly be hearing the fan base already starting to chant for Penix down there in Atlanta?
So here's what I think about that real quick, and I'll get off the soapbox of Atlanta Falcons football because not everybody needs to be as miserable as I am. Some Atlanta fans are just absolute boneheads. I think every fan base has those, right? And so, yes, naturally, I think some people will be calling for Michael Penix already. My problem with that is I don't know how many of those people that are calling for Penix saw how many times Kirk Cousins got destroyed by TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward, the rest of that Pittsburgh Steelers defense. Again, now we're going into Philadelphia. It's not going to be a whole lot better there. And then you've got Chris Jones in 2 weeks from Kansas City. I don't want to expose Michael Penix to that, not until we get the offensive line figured out. Listen, Brant, I was extremely excited about Zach Robinson as OC. He was one of the premier names for every one of the head coaching vacancies. A lot of these guys wanted him, for the offensive coordinator roles for these new head coaches, listen, he had Kirk Cousins drop back in pistol formation almost exclusively in this contest. And over Kirk Cousins' his long career, he's only done that like 35 times prior to this game. So, again, there's that issue. And then not once did we ever double team TJ Watt. I don't know, as a rocket scientist, Brand, I'm not saying I'm smart enough to be an offensive coordinator or a coach in the NFL, but if I'm lining up against the Cleveland Browns, the 49ers, the Chargers, the Steelers, I'm taking out, those big name pass rushers. I'm putting 2 guys on those. We'll figure out the rest of it later, right? I mean, it just seems like common sense, kind of like how you talked about the Chiefs. We're going to take away the best weapon offensively from the Ravens and Mark Andrews. You kind of do that the same thing with the defense. Make these other 10 guys beat us, and it just never happened. So we'll see. Verdict's still out, but I will say, as one Falcons fan, I'm nervous, and I will not advocate to start any Falcons not named Bijan Robinson until I see some improvement from whether it be play calling or Kirk Cousins moving forward.
I'm not a Falcons fan, but I've been calling for Michael Penix since you drafted him.
All right, Brent, let's move over to these guys that we want to show some patience to.
Okay, my first one, I'm going Homer. I'm going Homer. I'm going DK Metcalf. This is Ryan Grubb's first game ever as an OC in the NFL. This is a high-powered, high-volume passing offense when he was in college at Washington. He tried that coming out of the gate and then goes, hold up, we have to establish something here in Seattle. So let's short dump offs to JSN and let's feed the beast in the backfield. The good days of DK is coming. Ryan Grubb, it took a little bit. That second half, we looked a whole lot better offensively. Look who we matched up with as well. He matched up against the guy that I think he just became the highest paid corner in the NFL, Patrick Surtain. Yeah, it's going to be a rough outing for any wide receivers. And you got a brand new offensive coordinator. The better days are here for DK Metcalf, and they're coming forward. Ryan Grubb showed he wants to move the ball through the air. and also Pound. He's going to split this offense really nicely. And I'm excited to see moving forward, but it's going to be some growing pains. This is a guy that just came from college. He went from Washington's OC, moved over to Bama for like 3 days, and then came into the NFL. It's going to be some growing pains for the guy, but he's figured it out the second half, and they look phenomenal. And as long as McDonald keeps our defense keeps us in the game, good days are still coming. And our defense looked a lot better than I thought it was going to look. And so it was fun to watch. And you and me talked about it. I didn't have a whole lot of expectations. This is the first time in 13 years that I've ever had to really go through this whole transition. And it was a lot of fun. We'll just say the second play of the game, I had the game up on my tablet. I had me a little plate of nachos in front. Didn't want to get my pretty shirt dirty before the family photos. And he threw the interception, and I launched a nacho at my tablet and shattered everywhere. Of course, my dog enjoyed it. I was not happy to see the start of that, but it turned out a whole lot better at that offense.
You had to be sweating interception and then a safety not
safeties.
too soon after. Yeah, not too soon after that. I mean, you had to be sitting here going, what the hell is going on?
Yeah,
it came back around.
Yeah, I did. I definitely did. It was like, what in the is going on? This might be the first game in NFL history with this starting, but I had to remember the growing pains. It's going to be there, and it came around that second half.
Okay, fair enough. All right, I'm going to stay in your division, Brant, and those of you that tuned in and watched the Fatboyz live Sunday morning start sit, I was maybe a little ahead of the horse with Marvin Harrison Jr. I did call for 8.5 targets to be thrown to him. I expected a big game. First target of the game, I was watching that one off and on too, just because I wanted to see what the Bills' offense looked like post Stephon Diggs. Wanted to see Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, James Conner. And his first target of the game hit him in the hands and he dropped it. And I'm thinking, oh no, that's not a good start for the number 1 overall wide receiver. He did catch the next 2 passes, but it was just a slow game for him. Kyler Murray, on the other hand, looked phenomenal. Dortch was impressive. I think Trey McBride made some great catches. James Cook out of the backfield was a lot of fun to watch. He looked young. It was kind of surprising, but Marvin Harrison Jr. was on the field for 90% of snaps. He ran the most routes out of anybody on the Arizona Cardinals roster. Moving forward, this was like a, hey, feel it out, get your feet wet underneath of you. I'd be shocked if anybody in the Cardinals locker room genuinely thought they were going to go out and win this game. Obviously, you're going to play to win, and you believe there's that self-belief. But they put a damn good fight against the Buffalo Bills, Brant. That was one of the more entertaining games from the noon slate. And, it was, Cardinals all the way, and then second half the Bills kind of took over. But man, it was for quite a while. Yeah, well, Josh Allen, yes, but for quite a while, I was thinking, man, the Cardinals are about to upset this Bills team and put a lot of people on notice. And even though they didn't win, I do think they put a lot of people on notice because it's like, wait a minute, that offense is looking a lot better than anybody thought it would.
Now, you talk about putting people on notice. I'm going to pull this up while I'm talking about it. I saw this morning, and it mind boggled me. Well, I'll talk about Marvin Harrison while I pull this up. It's there. And you and me talked, and I know you made the joke of me thinking Michael Wilson, Trey McBride, and all them are going to suck up all the targets. There wasn't a whole lot of targets going around. They ran their entire first 2 drives. I believe it was all James Conner, and then I think somebody may have come in to spill one more carry, and then James Conner came back on the field. So it was a lot of running. It was a lot of running going forward. So it was definitely interesting to see with that moving forward. So Arizona, it still is. I just pulled it up. Arizona put everyone on notice. They are favored to beat the Rams this week by 1.5. Like it's just a point now, but either way, they definitely put a lot of people on notice.
How much of that too is, I wonder, because of Puka Nacua, not to get off on a huge tangent here, but having one of their better playmakers from Los Angeles out this week, does that change the complexion, or should it not change it much?
I think you think when you're at home, you get 3 points. They are in Arizona, so there's your 3 points. That's why they're favored. I do think it's because one of the stars is out, but they also, I think Vegas is trying to tell us that they think the Bills are obviously that much better than the Rams overall, since they put the Bills on their back feet and made them made them hustle
Okay.
for that win.
Okay. All right, Brant. I think that kind of wraps up and puts a bow on our talk for week 1. Let's move into week 2 really quick with our underdog plays of the week. Are you ready?
Yeah. Let me get that pulled up.
I want to start by saying that I did ask you to come up with one prop for Thursday, one for the weekend. The Thursday night contest this week between the Bills and the Miami Dolphins, maybe one of the juicier Thursday night contests to start a season we've had. Not talking or aside from, I guess, what we had last week with the Ravens and the Chiefs. But this should be a great contest again this week, Brant. A lot of fantasy names out there. Where's your head at? What's one prop you really like this week?
So before I get into this, I want to talk about the underdog. Last week, you put me on the spot. I forgot to do my touchdown performers on our start sits. I did go 3 out of 4 on those, so or 4 out of 5 on those. So with underdog using the flex, I was able to return a little bit of change into my pocket at about 2.5 times my money of what I put in. So get on there. This is why it's better than all your other sites, is you can flex it and still return a little bit of change with that. So you are talking juicy, and this is how juicy it is. I opened it up and I'm looking at the Thursday night and I'm going back to your text and I go, well, it only said 1. I said, well, I'm going to have to be a little overachiever, and I had to take a touchdown score because I was setting a lineup and realized Raheem Mostert's already been ruled out. Give me Devon A-Chain to cross that goal line. That's my first little one there. So that's my touchdown score for Thursday. I can put you on the spot now if you want to get yourself a little touchdown score for Thursday. This is my over. This is my over under, or my higher lower pick, and that is going to be Keon Coleman to go over 44, higher than 44.5 receiving yards. I think this is a shootout game. Coleman saw 5 total targets, 4 receptions for 51 yards in a game they played from behind. I think this game is a shootout. I think he goes higher than 44.5. And before I hit you with my Sunday play, let me also tell you there was a free square. Did you get your free square? Your CeeDee Lamb over a yard? I got my free square.
There was 2 of them on mine. CeeDee Lamb, and let me go back and look at it because I did get one of them. I think I did take the CeeDee Lamb one. It's a free square for Thursday night. I'm sorry. Josh Allen to go over half of a yard.
Yep. Yeah, I did see that one too.
For me, my Thursday night, I'll go with a touchdown score. I didn't look at this at all, but I'll go with it right off the rip. It's Josh Allen. He's too damn good down there near the goal line. He's like Cam Newton-esque back in his prime, where he just finds a way to get himself in the end zone. So I'll take him. And then we didn't discuss these at all pre-show, so I'm kind of giggling to myself right now. Not at your pick or my pick. It's at Vegas is saying we don't know who's going to be the primary pass catcher in Buffalo, because I took Dalton Kincaid to go higher than 44.5 receiving yards, which is the same line that they have out for Keon Coleman. So again, it's just who knows? We don't know. Week 1 was such a weird outlier. I mean, a lot of people thought Curtis Samuel was going to be the guy in Buffalo, and he ended up with 2 targets. So we'll see what this looks like week to week, but I do like Dalton Kincaid to bounce back. I don't think he's going to have as bad of games as he did week 1 all year. If he does, a lot of people are going to be panicking, myself included. But anyway, I think if he bounces back, it's going to be for a pretty good sized day. I'm thinking he could go someplace in the 60-yard game this week. So that's who I like for Thursday night, Brant.
Okay, absolutely. My Sunday, I'm going with the homer. They fed the man 23 times. Give me Kenneth Walker, higher than 67.5 rushing yards. You see this guy, if he touches the ball more than 10 times, he normally has a 20-plus yard rush. So this isn't anything for him to get. Give me higher than 67.5 rushing yards for Kenneth Walker against the New England Patriots.
All right, I like it. Riding the hot hand. I'm going to go with one that is not a hot hand, Brant. This is about as cool as it gets. I've got a Derrick Henry prop here that I think I like a lot for week 2. I understand those that feel that way. I've got Derrick Henry's longest rush from the line of scrimmage to be higher than 14.5 rush yards. So, I mean, when you talk about a guy who's capable of long runs, how many times have we seen him break for 90, 60, 70, 80 yards in a game on one play? It happens far too often for my liking to bet against it. Last week, he was kind of slow. It didn't look great, but I think that gets better this week. I think it almost has to, because if not again, we may be pressing the panic button on Derrick Henry moving into week 2, Brant. For now, I like to be patient, and I'm sure Sunday morning you and I are going to get some questions where some people are not being as patient as they probably should be. But for me, I'm going to start my studs into week 2, probably week 3 before I really get nervous.
Absolutely. So we're talking about this underdog, a game to pick on this week. It's so much as the lines aren't even out. It's that Carolina Chargers game. Carolina got ran all over last week. So look at some of these props. We'll talk about it on Sunday on our live at 10 a.m. Central Time. Join us live on Sunday, 10 a.m. Central Time. We'll go over underdog. We'll go over our FanDuel props. We'll go over, actually, we need to get our lineups in because we do normally go Thursday through Monday. So we need to get that going. We'll go over FanDuel. We'll go over all your start sits, anything you guys have. Join us on Sunday at 10 a.m. Central.
Yep. Can't wait to see everybody there.
Absolutely. It's week 2, guys. It's going into week 2. As always, stay hungry.
Stay fat, my friends.